Nasdaq OMX team, we will be able to efficiently apply the best technology of its kind offered by Nasdaq OMX team. As Borsa İstanbul information technology team will gain full control and in-depth knowledge of technology, Borsa İstanbul will soon become self-sufficient in investment.
We are extremely pleased to partner.
Distinguished guests and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted and honored to host the second Istanbul Regional Hub Global Actor Forums hosted by Borsa İstanbul today and to welcome you to New York City. Yes, we are in New York. We are in Manhattan, an island of 10 square miles. Every day, 8 million people come to work here, to a small part of the island called Wall Street, world's #1 financial center. Not only it carries 8 billion people, but also embraces the whole world's financial center on a piece of rock. And now we have a concrete bridge between Borsa İstanbul and Nasdaq OMX Group, New York Financial Center and Istanbul Financial Center. We will tell this story with our most esteemed panelists. Now, I would like to invite our panelists to the stage. Gentlemen. Welcome to the panel discussion, Istanbul Regional Hub Global Actor Forum. In this forum, we'll be exploring all aspects of Istanbul's advantages to become a financial center. Allow me to start with Mr. Mayor Sandy Fruher, Vice Chairman of the Nasdaq OMX Group. And I would like to ask you the contribution of Nasdaq and Borsa İstanbul partnership to Istanbul Financial Center.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I appreciate the sponsors for having me here. I noticed that this is called the Actor Forum, so I didn't know whether or not I should.
You're an actor.
Oh, I can do Shakespeare. And
yeah, exactly.
Belly
Take
dancing,
your time.
Belly
dance is better.
That's great. Well, all the world's a stage, and world financial centers are on that stage. I want to correct you, if I may. The financial center of New York, while a lot of what we call the FIRE industries, finance and insurance, etc., are located in Lower Manhattan, it really is located in Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan as well as Lower Manhattan. I say that because it parallels Istanbul. Istanbul is a center with many locations that constitute holistically, it's a center. Nasdaq OMX got excited about the opportunity to work with the Borsa İstanbul, not simply because we were going to provide them with technology, because we believe that we do have good technology, and that technology would help elevate the exchange and make it a global player. They're going to use the same technology we do in our markets. They have the highest level of our technology. And what makes the deal very exciting is that we believe that together we can create a global reach for the Istanbul Stock Exchange, and a particular formation of making it a regional hub, both in terms of Eastern Europe, Western Asia, and the Middle East, and parts of Africa as well. They are the only, they are going to be, and to a certain extent with our assistance because of the technology, they're going to be a totally, completely full-service enterprise. They're going to deal with a full spectrum of markets, not just equity markets, but just the whole range: equities, futures, commodities, indexes, etc. They're going to have as broad a reach as any market in the world. They're going to deal with every modality. It already has a strong banking center, it has a strong communication center, and it has all the attributes that make a world financial center. It has a quality of life. It has the ability to attract people from all over the world who are happy to be there either on a short-term or on a long-term basis. And as far as the exchange itself goes, what attracted us the most at the outset was that under the leadership of Dr. Turhan, he was able to work with the government to create a totally vertically and horizontally integrated enterprise where all of the various trading areas, as I said, all of the modalities would be constituted as part of the Borsa Istanbul. So the new Borsa Istanbul will have everything under its umbrella, including clearing. This is the envy, really, of every exchange in the world, big or small. If you look at the history of, I'm going on because I know we have 2 hours to fill. But
it's a guess.
But I think these points need to be made. If you look at every major exchange in the world, let's start with the former New York Stock Exchange, now the ISE, oh, I am kind with them. I love that New Atlanta Exchange. The New York Stock Exchange and Nasdaq, in order to survive, honestly, had to do what Borsa Istanbul is doing in a more profound way. You couldn't simply be an equity exchange, and you had to go global. So both New York and Nasdaq reach across the pond, and through acquisitions, we were able to expand both our geographic reach and through, again, through a certain amount through acquisitions, we were able to expand from being literally an equity boutique and go into options and futures and other modalities. Without that, you cannot be a 21st century exchange. Here in the United States, to be perfectly honest, Nasdaq is still trying to figure out how we can penetrate and expand into the commodities and futures business, which is pretty much dominated by the CME. I think that's pretty clear. We're trying to find our niche locations. They, through legislation, through persuasion, through the ability to bring it all together in a harmonious, collective way, have been able to create an infrastructure that is second to none. And when they have our technology, which I think is a major addition, and our ability to work with them to expand further and further in concentric circles out from the core, there's no question in our mind that they will be the most dominant exchange from Central Europe to Central Asia.
Okay, as far as I can understand, you mentioned the importance of gathering all different markets under one umbrella, Borsa Istanbul. Do you think that it's an advantage for example, proprietary traders or HFTs? It's an attraction?
Well, you know, I don't know how many traders there are in the room, but you know, if you are a trader, the world of trading in the last, let's call it decade, maybe decade and a half, has completely changed. In the old days, you just traded the modality that you were trading, like equities. Then people discovered that there were ways to hedge your trading. And that's become a very significant part of the trading business. So you went from equities to options on equities. Today, if you look at a very sophisticated trading operation, they're hedging their bets not just on equities, but on currencies, on options, on futures, on commodities, literally across the world. To have the ability to do that under a single umbrella is very important in terms of efficiency. In today's world, efficiency is very, very important because of the electronics. The second is how much money a firm, a large trading firm, has to put on reserve with the trading entities. And so the ability to have a centralized clearing function that can handle all of these things under that umbrella is worth, depending on your size, a lot of money. So if you want to talk about efficiency in terms of opportunity, in terms of cost efficiency, you can't think of anything better.
Okay.
Can I just?
Of course, please.
Well, when I was a small kid, in order to provide the needs of the house, we had to go to first a grocery, then a butcher, then patisserie, and so on and so forth, and everything was sold in a separate place. And sometimes you don't have enough money, and during those days we hadn't had yet credit cards, so we had current accounts with those small and medium-sized shops or shopkeepers. So they had their books written where they were writing our names and our liabilities. Then a new phenomena took place in Turkey, and we call them supermarkets. It was really very interesting and appealing because you no longer needed to go through different shops, but instead you enter into one single shop and you see everything there. You can buy anything, and since it is larger, standards are better.
Like Migros.
Like Migros, Nikos. You have labels and you have protections. You have your consumer rights, and there is advanced payment systems, so you can use credit cards, etc. This was an innovation, and it improved our standards, life standards. I see some parallelities between this and what we have done in Borsa Istanbul, because when you bring everything together, an investor can invest in cash equities, derivatives developed on those equities. They can invest in fixed income. They can invest in Sharia compliant products. They can invest in derivatives developed on those products. They can invest in equity, cash, derivatives, fixed income, cash, derivatives, commodities, energy contracts, electricity power contracts, natural gas contracts. Very soon we will have steel, iron ore, commodities like this, and this gold, diamonds, everything. So it is a complete market.
It's a financial grand bazaar.
Yes. A dream in the textbooks, a complete market. Also, the fact that we accomplished the vertical integration helped from another angle, that is collateral management, risk management. If you have an integrated market structure, then investors that may have a long position in one of the markets and short in another can easily match those positions and may continue their operation with a relatively and comparatively lower collateral base, and which is good because it takes your intermediation cost lower. And also, when you have an end-to-end integrated system, then of course it increases the confidence, security, safety. It eliminates some obstacles. I remember, for example, Süreyya Cili, when we first met in 1999. Now he is the CEO of Turkcell, but as far as I know, the only company that is listed in New York from Turkey. But at that time, it was the CEO of Microsoft in Turkey. And we had a very good discussion, and during this discussion, he told me that, look, there is a huge inefficiency in IT industry because we have different programs, different softwares, and once settled, we are now trying to make sure that those different softwares are talking to each other without any problem. So each and every time you put an translator, if you look, if you wish, to make sure that those different softwares will be talking with each other without any problem. But each and every time you put another interface between two items, then of course you increase the risk, because before the risk is only failure of those systems, but once you introduce an interface, then the failure of the interface is another risk. So when you eliminate all the layers and you create an end-to-end integrated market, trading integrated horizontally, trading, post-trading, custodian, settlement integrated vertically, then of course it's more secure, more safe, and much easier. So I think this will constitute a competitive advantage for Borsa Istanbul.
Okay. What is next for the Grand Bazaar? I understand your achievements with the Nasdaq, your technology infrastructure, and your retail markets been developing very rapidly. What's next for the Borsa Istanbul?
When the Second World War finished, a journalist interviewed the Winston Churchill, and he asked him, "Mr. Prime Minister, is it the end?" And the answer of Churchill is really very noticeable. He said, "It is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end. It's only the end of the beginning." So what we have accomplished together with Nasdaq, it's only the end of the beginning. Now we have a very exciting and amusing, actually, journey ahead of us. And this partnership sometimes is taken as a sole or merely a technology sale. It is not. First of all, Nasdaq acquired 5% of Borsa Istanbul shares as part of the payment of technology. Why did they do so? You can ask Sandy. When we first met, he told me, "No way. You even should not think about it." This was his first, reaction.
Why 5%, not 50%?
Because he wouldn't let us. That's why we didn't want to do less than 5. I mean, if you ask the question, I'll be very candid with the answer. The answer is that we don't invest minority stakes. If we're going to invest in a situation, we don't like a situation in which we have zero control and we're just a passive investor. We're a technology company that runs stock exchanges, and we're not venture capitalists. And so we didn't want to invest 5% or 7%. If we wanted to have an investment, we would talk about, a majority stake. When we started to look at the totality of the opportunity, it wasn't simply a technology deal. It became a strategic partnership that we saw as, to be not silly, but to be redundant, strategic for us as well. They have reaches into places that we couldn't go. And when we looked at what's happening there, we decided that it behooved us to add our brand to the Borsa Istanbul brand. Now, we're very careful about that, as you can imagine. So we found that they had not just a good plan, but they had a good ethic and a good culture. And how does that manifest itself? It manifests itself in 3 ways. Number one, on the culture of integrity, they have an internal and external surveillance and regulatory operation that's as good as anywhere in the world. You have a strong regulator who's independent. There were times when we were looking at various elements of this deal. We thought he was much too independent.
Yes.
Particularly when they insisted that we translate all 5,000 pages into Turkish. So there's a very strong culture of transparency, regulation, ethics, etc. Number two, they take the commitment to the community much more seriously, and I say this with no hesitation. They take their commitment to the broader community in Turkey greater than any other exchange. From its inception, the Borsa started to invest a percentage of its upside to the creation or building of schools. The exchange has built 450 schools across Turkey. Tell me, what exchange? I mean, we all have foundations, but the reach is minuscule compared to that. When they reconstructed and created the Borsa Istanbul, the exchange had owned land behind it. They put that land into a land trust and have raised $1 billion to continue the tradition of providing opportunities to people in Turkey. So they have $1 billion foundation, effectively, that will continue the tradition. Third, in every forum and every meeting that I've been to in Istanbul to discuss the Borsa and what the Borsa does, I've noted a very focused education program aimed at educating people as to what a stock market is and how people should think about how to invest their money. Starting with the notion that exchanges are not casinos, that they're there for long-term investments, and you have to be educated about what you do. I have never seen an exchange anywhere in the world, including Nasdaq. We do fund through our foundation some investor education programs, but they do this as very much part of their operating budget, very much part of their ethic. Now, frankly, in the long term, it's very good business because their penetration is very, very small, which means that they have an enormous upside as they reach into new institutional sectors that they haven't reached before, and individual into the retail market that they have never reached before. But they're not doing it the way you see it happening in other countries. They're doing it through education, and this is very, very important. So this was a culture, an ethic, a strategic relationship that was very, very important for us, because we know, even though we're going to be a minority partner, a large technology partner, but in the end, this is a institution that we very much want to be part of.
Okay. Those are the crucial motivations for investors to be part of Borsa Istanbul: this corporate governance, sustainability, financial literacy. Those are important mottos. Ibrahim Bey, would you like to go ahead or have a... Yeah, please. As long as the position of Turkey and global finance and Istanbul Financial Center, what's your point of view?
Well, first, also, let me say thank you for the invitation to appear here. Good to see a number of old friends in the crowd, and I look forward to talking with you after this more formal presentation. I'm Rick Johnston with Citibank. I am the Managing Director for International Government Affairs. I'm down in Washington, which takes me a little bit away from the financial center of New York, but not so far away that we don't pay attention. I'd like to make actually 3 points about why Borsa Istanbul is so well positioned to take advantage of the future, if you will. One is, well, there's 3 points really. One is that I think the European Union accession of Turkey has greatly accelerated Turkey's transition and modernization as an economy. Secondly, I think the basic business and economic conditions reflect really strong fundamentals, which most of us, I'm sure, in this crowd fully understand. But I want to emphasize it because this record of stability that Turkey has demonstrated over the past 10 to 15 years is something that's very unique and something that the markets, I think, are starting to grasp and recognize. And then the last point is just to go through a couple of statistics about Borsa Istanbul's positioning as an international financial center. It's doing pretty well vis-a-vis its competitors, but I think a couple of points can be made on that front. First, as so far as the European accession is concerned, it's been a rocky road, obviously, but my understanding is things are starting to pick up again. A couple of new chapters have been opened for negotiation, which is very promising. But I think you can fully attribute Turkey's aspirations to join the European Union to why you've got the kinds of reforms that now have been legislated to modernize the commercial environment within Turkey, particularly for purposes of the rule of law in commercial transactions. Therefore, in 2012, you've got a new obligations code, you've got a new commercial code. 2013, of course, we've got the new capital markets law, which I think has really yet to be fully implemented by regulation, but the promise is I think, significant for purposes of what Borsa İstanbul's aspirations are. And then last but certainly not least, the fact that Borsa İstanbul exists. And as of 2013, the coming together and the recognition that in order to really develop the deep kind of capital markets that you need for Turkish economic development as well as regional economic development, I think it's key for Borsa İstanbul to be seen that way. That coming together and that working with NASDAQ is a huge, I think, if nothing else, vote of confidence. Now, insofar as the business and economic conditions are concerned for Turkey, as I said, I think the fact that the GDP rate, all the basic fundamentals that are indicators of the health of an economy remained relatively positive throughout the economic crisis, if you will, the global recession, as well as the financial crisis, really says something about the management of the economy as well as the vibrancy, the resiliency of the business community within Turkey, particularly when you look at what's been happening all around it. From a business perspective, and I practiced international law in Washington for 35 years before Citi decided they needed somebody like me in-house. Still not quite sure why, but the bottom line is it's predictability and it's some sort of a track record, and clearly Turkey has demonstrated that. Today it's the 17th, although I looked at your brochures, some people are arguing it's the 16th largest economy in the world.
It varies according to the World Bank and IMF data.
Just shows you how economists can play with numbers. A population of, what is it, 77 million?
Yeah.
And GDP in 2013 was 818 billion. Interesting to project for 2014 that the GDP will be approximately 872 billion. As Minister Babacan pointed out last week when we were down together for the IMF World Bank meetings, and he met with a number of us down in Washington, he really emphasized the point that Turkey is now developing a very strong and growing middle class. And for those of us who obviously study the economic development of countries around the world, and for Citi this is obviously a very, very key indicator. The growth of the middle class, the depth of that middle class in terms of its savings rates, in terms of its ability, if you will, to grow as individual families, that's really a very important indicator. And I think it's absolutely right for the Deputy Prime Minister to emphasize the growth of the middle class within Turkey. Turkey's public debt, which has been sort of an issue for the last 10 years of conversation at least, is only 36% of GDP. And I think, again, the Deputy Prime Minister pointed out last week, and it's a good thing to say, the Maastricht criteria is 60%. So Turkey is well below that threshold. I picked out just a couple other factoids that suggest to me the promise that is Turkey as a financial center and as an economy. Foreign institutional investors hold approximately 63% of the free float equities on the exchange, which is, I think, a pretty healthy number and a very good indication. What I think is particularly remarkable, however, and my colleague Sarah Akçalı, who is the CCO in Turkey, wanted me to make this point for sure. Sarah runs our Citi operation in Turkey. Domestic institutional investors in Turkey represent only about 3% of those free float equity ownership. And that suggests to us, when you look at those kinds of numbers, the kind of potential growth that lies in the exchange and in things like new IPOs and things like foreign listings in the exchange. there is this, it's almost like you could say the sky is the limit when you look at how what the investment ratios are like. Insofar as Istanbul's status as an international financial center, the latest Global Financial Centers Index, which I know you're very familiar with, it just published its 15th edition in March. If you haven't seen it and you're at all curious about this particular topic of where does Istanbul rank, this is a very interesting resource to look at. It's very well researched. It's done, as I say, this is its 15th edition. And I think it's sort of tells the story. It reviews 83 cities, and it considers 5 factors, which Sandy more or less pointed out, but I'll list them again. One is the business environment. Secondly is the taxation. Third, human capital. Fourth, infrastructure. Fifth, reputation. And this report, this latest edition, by the way, points out that reputation is an increasingly important factor in how these financial centers are ranked. And then last but not least is market access, which for Istanbul is a huge plus because of the environments that it's operating in. Now within this index, this last edition ranked Istanbul number 47 out of 83 countries, or I'm sorry, cities. It went up 18 points in terms of the overall evaluation, but it sank 3 positions, which is a bit interesting. But to me, when I looked at it and I looked at the full list of all the cities, what that only suggests is the competition for becoming or operating as an international financial center is really intense. So even though you can improve yourself, if you don't improve yourself by 20 to 25 points, you're not going to see these rankings necessarily increase. Everybody that has any kind of viable economy is now vying for this international financial, at least regional financial center. So the competition is fierce, and you know, coming from the U.S., I'd say competition can be good.
But Rick?
Yes, sir.
What that study, which I've looked at, doesn't really assess is geography.
Right.
And when you look at this region, there's only one place in this region that comes close, which is Istanbul.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you because I think you're right. It's Istanbul, in my opinion, is exceptionally well located as a hub for the region. But it was also interesting that the rankings, it ranked Istanbul below all 5 of the major Middle Eastern financial centers: Qatar, Dubai, Riyadh, Bahrain, Abu Dhabi. What I liked about where Istanbul is finding itself, though, is it is ranked higher than Milan, which took a deep nosedive, Beijing, Johannesburg, Mexico City, Mumbai, and interestingly, Moscow. Moscow, from my being interested in this topic for many years now, has always been a bit of a regional contender to compete with Istanbul for this financial center status.
Under those circumstances, you know, the Ukraine brothers.
Well, I was going to point out that Moscow is now ranked at 73 versus Istanbul at 47, I think it said. And what the report hastens to point out, really made a point of it, was that Moscow is suffering in its stature and ranking because of a strong, this is a quote, strong reputational disadvantage. So it goes to these qualitative aspects of what makes a good international financial center.